Well, I'm here with Regina Pat's general manager, John Paddock. John, obviously, very exciting draft for you guys. Being able to select first overall, the first ever exceptional player in the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard. What about Connor makes him so exceptional, and where do you see him fitting into your lineup next year?
Well, I think it's the overall package. I think it would have to be when you to get exceptional status. There isn't anything that he's weak at. He's his approach to the game already, his desire, things he's doing now during even a strange off season are incredible. But I think the offensive side of the game is what is going to be noticed most. So did that attract us to him or me to him? I guess maybe, but when you watch his overall thing, Steve Maher did a tremendous job with him, with how he plays all over the ice. But the offensive side and the way he shoots the puck is pretty incredible, his shot.
Yeah, truly is an exceptional player. And like you touched on, this is such a unique time. How did your club go about preparing for this Bantam draft, given that we did do it online and we couldn't get all the scouts in the same room?
Well, we worked through the Zoom stuff. It actually worked pretty good for. We didn't do anything until the last 3 days before. We had our meetings then with our head scout to come into Regina, Dale Mullen, and we worked from that. And having the guys coming on Zoom is basically like having them in the room. It worked very well. And then we conducted the draft the same way on Wednesday, with them be able to reach out and us reach them very quickly.
So looking at some of the other players you were able to select in this year's draft, a really great pickup in the second round in Matthew Wood. What type of player does the Regina Pats look for? What are the characteristics of that player?
Well, I think all teams look basically for the same. For us, there's some categories, like skating is ultra important. It's been that way for a long time now. Skating, speed, size is important. It's not the end all, but it is important. Competitiveness, just the will to get to pucks first at both ends of the puck, no matter what the consequences are going to be. Those three things, are really important. Hockey sense, to be able to think the game. So that, and we prefer a long, lean body rather than a shorter, thick guy or something like that. But those become personal preferences. But skate, think the game, be competitive, have some skill. You're in good place.
John, you've been an NHL player, an NHL head coach, an NHL assistant coach, and now a Western Hockey League general manager. With all of your experience, when you're scouting, how is it different scouting a 14-year-old compared to scouting a player who's getting ready to go to the NHL?
Well, I think it's just a little more exaggerated, my word, in projection. It's very hard to tell a 17-year-old where he's going to be like when he's 20 or 22 for the NHL. I think it's even more difficult to tell what a 14-year-old is going to be like when he's 17 or 18 or 19. I think the changes in the human body are immense at that time. He's got less experience of maybe just different things that can go wrong, from schooling to broken families. It's just a real hard projection. And but in saying that, we approach it the same way that I've seen NHL teams approach it, with how we evaluate players and the views we want to get and make our decisions.
When it comes to making those decisions, you guys took a pretty balanced approach to the draft. 2 forwards, a defenseman, another forward, a defenseman, and a goalie. Do you have a plan going into the draft of, we want our first 2 picks to be the best available forward, and then our next pick the best defenseman? Or are you just going, who is our best player on our list, and we're taking that guy?
Well, not to sit on the fence, but probably a combination of that. I think you want to take the best players that you believe is the best player. So that's the first consideration. I think you have to look at, like last year we took Leighton Feist, the defenseman that we liked very much with the first pick. So we balanced that off with Connor this year up front. you try and get a balance over a couple year period of positions. We took Matthew Keeper, goalie that we think is very, very good. So we waited till the 5th round to take our first goaltender. That had something to do with it. We didn't have as big a need as we had last year for a goalie. So the same with defensemen. We sort of situated them in there in a combination of we need to get a defenseman that has a chance to play, and with balancing with this forward, so forth. So it's there's a plan, but I think you have to go by how the draft is going. When there's a saying amongst all of hockey, I think when goalies start to go, they all go. So you have to be recognizable of that. Of you may have to switch plans because all of a sudden there's going to be a goalie run and you don't have a pick the next round, and you're going to go 40 players before you have a pick, and so that comes into the play.
So now that these players, specifically this 2005 group, they've been drafted, what's the next step for them with the Regina Pats?
Well, again, with our COVID-19 situation, their next step normally would be a spring camp where we would get them, our 04s and our 05s together, and introduce them to Regina and our billet coordinator and our education person and maybe some of our ownership, and they'd have a couple light practices. That's all out the window. Their next step, I hope, is training camp in the fall, where we can get a view of them for 2 or 3 days. But I think if we're being honest, even that could be up in the air. So we've reached out to them all personally. I know Dave has, I know I have, I know Dale has. You're welcome to call us at any time with any questions. There's probably not a lot we can give them, and with the exception of Connor, there's nobody that's going to be a factor on our team next year. But yeah, we're open. We have communication with them, and we want them to reach out if they have any questions.
That's awesome. Well, John, congrats on the draft. Hope you have a great summer, and thanks for taking time out of your day today.
Thank you, Zach.